No worries
Great
at
to
all.
meet great to meet you, man.
Great to meet you.
Where are you coming out of?
I live in New Hampshire, actually.
Okay,
So right in
cool.
the Boston area. Yeah.
This is the time of year right now where everything starts turning into magic.
It's starting to get there. Probably got 2 or 3 more weeks, but yeah.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to meet you, and I want to start the conversation off with what we've done for the last 3 years, which is living through COVID. And I'm curious, how did you get through it and how did it change you?
It's interesting. So when COVID first happened, I was actually at the startup I founded, and I was the COO, and we had about 40 or 50 people in the office. Told everyone to go home, but I continued to go into the office every single day. There were about four of us that went in. You know, we had 8,000 square feet, so it was plenty of space to spread out. So I stuck with going into the office. From a business perspective, we had to move our team in Kathmandu to completely work from home. We did that overnight in about 18 hours. And migrated everything over. During COVID, I ended up selling the company, starting with the acquired company, and getting divorced. So there were many things that happened during COVID. I don't know that I could attribute any of them specifically to COVID, but yeah, I don't know. It was a rough time for everyone. I think my children and their educations suffered. Probably took a year off of really being educated, even though they got moved forward in the school system.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a lot of learning going on. So
No, there wasn't. There wasn't. I think it went to a halt. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living on a daily basis. I mean, I
yeah,
see it
sure.
on paper, but let's put you in front of a bunch of third graders. Speaking of school, it's career day. One of the kids asks you, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I It's an interesting question. I take problems that people face and I help people find solutions to those problems. Generally through building software, or uh, applying process, or organizing people to do tasks to solve the problem manually. But generally speaking, building software to solve those problems.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I would I wanted to be president of the United States,
There
which,
you go.
looking back on it, was a really dumb dream, but it's probably the worst job in the world. But
Oh man. Yeah.
uh, yeah, no, that was my dream job. Not an astronaut or a football player or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was that.
So let's go back to your childhood. Tell me where you were born and raised and how these ideas of getting into software and helping people out. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was originally born and raised in New Hampshire, but well, born in New Hampshire. I moved to Minnesota when I was about 9.5, and lived there through graduation of high school, and then ended up going to Tufts University back out east, and have stayed here ever since. How I got into building things, this definitely comes from my father. He was an entrepreneur. Um, when I was 15, he started a company. And I'll never forget it. Labor Day weekend, I went in with him, and I was a big computer nerd to begin with, having been writing code for 10 plus years. I was 15, and I was just hanging out. It was kind of just like exciting to watch the first day, move into the new office, all of that. And they needed help. They were trying to turn up a T1, which is a high speed connection uh, well, high speed at the time. It'd be very low speed today, but that connection into a private network that we were building. It was a credit card processing company. Basically, if you went to places like the Gap and you swiped your credit card, the whole transaction went over that network, and we were having to turn up that T1. And everyone got busy with other stuff and couldn't figure out how to get it done. And so I pulled out a laptop and connected into it, the 232 connection and played around with it and eventually got it working. And so the guy who was running network operations was impressed and said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" So I started working there. That was my first job, and at a startup, and very kind of gritty startup. And I worked there for 2.5 years in run as a network engineer, managing that that network.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it started early for you. So who's been kind of a role model or a hero for you in your life?
Um, I've had several. Certainly, my father would be a number one. He he really showed me that hard work and determination is the key to success. A lot of people look at success and say, well, it was luck and all of that, but at the end of the day, you know, lucky things happen to everyone. You got to have the vision and the understanding to know that something's lucky is happening to you, and then be determined and in position to actually take advantage of it. So he would be very first and foremost. I've had mentors along the way, but he was certainly kind of my role model and someone I look up to.
So if you can meet anybody, whether it's in the tech industry or otherwise, anybody on the planet alive right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
I would probably be Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That'd be an easy answer. Guy's kind of incredible. You think, and you can debate, whether he was the initial inventor of any one of the companies that he's started or claims credit for, but anyone who's ever started anything can tell you that yes, the idea is important, and even the proof of concept is important, but the execution and bringing it to fruition is kind of a number one. And you can there's no debate about him taking those fledgling companies and or starting those fledgling companies and making them into something pretty amazing. And it'd just be really interesting to have a conversation with him.
So what is your motivation? Speaking of Elon having all these motivations to do all the things that he does, what is that for you? What gets you out of bed? What gets you to want to accomplish what you want to get done?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I am motivated by a couple of different things. One, first and foremost, I love building things, building products that people use, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So personally, that is one part of why I get up in the day. And I like to build as many things as possible. So part of why I'm in my current endeavor is, trying to work with multiple different startups and be involved in kind of a variety of different endeavors. Um, Number two, certainly I'm motivated by having a good time doing the things I do. So having fun doing it is a big part of it as well. So I'm surrounding myself with friends who I enjoy and who also contribute. But very very big into having a great culture and having fun while we're working and building things and producing. And third is kind of the country of Nepal. I've been doing work with Nepal for 15 years now. It's one of the poorer countries in the world, and I've been there almost 30 times at this point. Have a kind of a deep connection with the people, and very very interested in just kind of continuing to improve the country and employ as many people as I can over there, because they're very kind and generous and helpful folks, and I just really have a place in my heart for that.
So what's been the best success story you've been involved with as a professional?
Oh, certainly. So it was a company called Deerwalk. I was one of the co-founders of back in 2010. We bootstrapped that company with just a little bit of friends and family money. Over 10 years, we built that company up. We leveraged the team in Kathmandu, but we built this company up. We grew revenue, and built a product, a healthcare data analytics platform. that kind of changed the industry in the payer analytics area. Way inside baseball for healthcare, but we provided and continue to provide analytics capabilities to large employers, health plans, health systems. At the end, we had, when I left, had roughly 40 million people on the platform, 40 million Americans, about 10% of the population. Sold that company in 2020. And I continue to work with the acquirer Cedargate for another 2.5 years. And just this August left there to kind of go start something new. But that was certainly the most successful. Success is defined by a lot of different things. Certainly the economics, we had what could only be described as a home run exit, especially for a bootstrapped company. We employed over 2,000 people in Kathmandu over the 10 years. So that was a good success. But for me, the biggest success was the culture we created, and the people that we developed and really grew into kind of a community. And you can look at it and see several different companies that have been started by people who are graduates or not graduates, or alumni of working for us. So much of that was about bringing in young kids fresh out of college and building them up and developing them into true professionals that could go out into the world and do other things.
So at the end of the day, as kind of the captain of what you do, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
It's interesting because I've talked to a bunch of people about this, and almost everyone always feels like some days you're playing dress up, throwing clothes on and going to work, and you're still this young kid that's almost pretending or going to work with their dad or something like that. And so for me, I am still kind of very much that kid. And I've always thought of myself, I guess, back to that 15-year-old kid, at the startup, just learning things and just trying to figure things out. That's how I view myself. It probably gives me a little bit of humility by doing that, but I just that's how I feel most days. I'm not gonna lie, there's some days where I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing, and this is really, really good, and I can have moments of real confidence and even ego, but definitely most days, that's kind of how I feel.
So what in the realm of technology, of all of these things, from OS to hardware development to all of these things, what has to you been the most impressive, the biggest leap, the thing that's permeated us in the most profound way?
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue with the internet in general, right? So I first got on the internet when I was 12, and it was mr.net or Mr.net, but it was Minnesota something network, and you dialed in, and there was Gopher and UUNet, and there was no World Wide Web, no nothing like that, and it was fun and everything, but the evolution of that over my lifetime is certainly the most impactful change. I mean, it impacts everything we do, right? You are hard pressed to do anything, including going for a hike, that isn't impacted by the internet. So that has to be hands down in my lifetime the biggest technical game changing or life changing technology out there.
So beyond all, I mean, AI has just developed so rapidly. It's become a part of our
Yep.
consciousness so fast. Are you afraid of it?
No, I'm not. I think we are aware enough to know the dangers of it kind of taking over. That I think will I'm not concerned by that. I'm not concerned by it taking jobs away from folks or something like that. There's, every innovation, everyone's in the history of the universe has always said, oh, that innovation is gonna, kill jobs and all that. And you know what happens is those jobs go away and new jobs come into fruition. So we don't know what that's necessarily going to look like. I'm certainly not smart enough to know what that's going to look like 5-10 years from now, but certainly that aspect of it, is gonna evolve.
So, Jeff, if anyone wants to dig into your company, your history, anything about your world, get in touch. How can they do that?
Yeah, couple different things. I'm certainly on LinkedIn, Jeff Rick, at Maitri Services. Our website, maitriservices.com, Maitri services.com. Maitri, by the way, is a Buddhist term for friendship, and so that's kind of why we named the company that way. So yeah.
Right on. Jeff, thank you so much for your time, for your story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck.